Hello, my friends. Hello, it's Matthew Street, and welcome to my channel. As always, I appreciate you being here. Folks, you might be saying, Matt, what is with the getup? Well, folks, the getup is, this is my facsimile, or the best I could come up with, for an 80s themed outfit. Yes, folks, because I am going to participate in the Schnee CD Junkie Holy Trinity Challenge right now, folks. But my version is going to have a little twist to it. My version is going to be an 80s version of the Holy Trinity Challenge. Now, you might be saying, oh, Matt, he's going to be pulling up the Dead or Alive CDs, Cyndi Lauper, Madonna, Prince, ABC, the Cars, on and on. No. Mine's going to be slightly off kilter. It's going to be a little different. Not your typical average, what you would think you would have heard back on MTV 80s Holy Trinity Challenge. This is going to be the Matthew Street Holy Trinity Challenge from the 80s. And so I've got my fluorescent hoodie here. I've got my 80s style glasses, and I got my Marty McFly Back to the Future hat. So I'm ready to go. 1980s, here we go. The Holy Trinity Challenge by Schnee. Now, the rules are, it has to be a band or an artist that has at least 5 studio albums. And you have to pick 3 albums from within their catalog that are some of your favorites in succession, meaning the albums have to be released one after the other. Studio albums only, no live albums, no compilations, no greatest hits. So here we go. Now, these aren't necessarily my favorite albums by these artists, folks, but I wanted to get some 80s artists that I love in here. And so in a couple of instances, I had to stretch it a little bit and pick an album to meet the Holy Trinity, 3 in succession. And one of the albums I may have picked may not be one of my favorites by this artist, but I wanted to do it that way. Okay, so the first one I'm going to show you is the Smithereens. Their first album, which is, especially for you, Green Thoughts, their second album, and 11, all released in the 1980s. My next artist will be the Ramones. We have Pleasant Dreams, Subterranean Jungle, and Too Tough to Die, all released in the 1980s. My next artist will be Billy Joel. We have Glass Houses, The Nylon Curtain, and An Innocent Man. 3 albums in succession by Billy from the 1980s. Okay, next up we have Crowded House, self-titled Crowded House, Temple of Low Men, and finally Woodface, a favorite of mine right here. All right, next where are we going to go to? Okay, Cheap Trick. Again, may not be my favorite 3 albums of theirs, but for this Holy Trinity, I want to do something different, and I wanted it to be in the 80s. So, we are going with All Shook Up, One on One, and Next Position Please. Cheap Trick in the 80s. All right, next one of my favorite artists, Marshall Crenshaw. Now, I went a little off kilter with this one because I wanted to include one of my favorite albums of his. So I had to leave out the debut album, but the debut album from 1982, self-titled Marshall Crenshaw, is one of my favorite albums of all time, ever. It's in my top grouping of favorites. But his 4th studio album is right up there too for me, folks. I wanted to include it and be a little bit different and not just go with the common first 3 Marshall Crenshaw albums. So I went starting with his 2nd studio album, Field Day. Then I went with Downtown, another one I love them all. But one of my favorites, Mary Jean plus 9 Others. Love this album. Oh, this could be one of my, up there, top 1 or 2 favorite Marshall Crenshaw albums. It's up there. It's in the top. And I wanted to include that. All Marshall albums from the 80s. Okay. And albeit, I know the debut was also from the 80s, but I wanted to get it up to Mary Jean plus 9 Others. All right, now the first one, this is my final set, and then I'll be out of here because I wanted to be part of Steven's contest here. This first one is not one of my favorite of this artist at all, but I didn't want to go. I wanted to stay in the 80s, so I kind of had to throw it in there because I really wanted to highlight this artist because they're one of my favorite rock and roll artists of all time, but I had to figure out how to do it and still include things I like. So, I'm sorry. So the first one is one I really love, which is Women and Children First by Van Halen from the 80s, 1980. Oh, one of my favorite Van Halen albums of all time. Unfortunately, I have to show the next one if I want to keep the Holy Trinity. So not one of my favorite, one of my least favorite Van Halen albums, but Diver Down is from the 80s, 1982. And last but not least, another favorite of mine of Van Halen. Oh, wait a minute. I messed this up. Okay. Favorite of mine, 1980. I messed up the succession. Forgive me. 1981. I don't know how I messed that up. What am I going wrong here with? Fair Warning from 1981 is another favorite of Matthew Street. 2 absolute favorites of mine right here. Love them. However, the final one, so I could get in, I wanted to get in Women and Children First. I didn't want to dip back into the 70s with Van Halen 2, so I started with this one. I wanted to get this one in there, so to get these 2 in there, to keep it that Trinity, I had to go with this one, Diver Down from 1982, but I don't really like Diver Down that much. There's some great stuff on it, but not one of my favorite Van Halens. But to keep the Trinity, there's the Trinity. I love Van Halen, and I love the album after this one, which was 1984. So now with the Sammy era, you know, I could have gone the first one, 5150 with Sammy. That's the only Sammy era album that I really listen to much. I'm not a big fan. I'm a fan of Sammy Hagar, but not of him with Van Halen at all. I do like the first one, 5150. So I could have done 5150, 1984, you know, but then I would have had to jump down to Diver Down. Either way, Diver Down was going to mess up my 80s if I didn't include it. I have to either jump back into the 70s or do more Sammy, and I didn't want to do that. So I went with these 3, and I know I'm yapping on about Van Halen, but I love Van Halen, but that Diver Down is just not one of my favorites. But Holy Trinity, okay? Love the band. So that's it. I just wanted to be part of Steven's little presentation here, his Holy Trinity Challenge, but I wanted to keep mine in the 1980s. So that's what I did here, 1980s, you know, had to keep with the look and everything. So thanks, thank you to Steven, love Steven Schnee. Please subscribe to his channel. He's got a fabulous channel, and try the Holy Trinity Challenge. You just have to list an artist or so, your favorite artists, 3 of their albums that were released in succession, studio albums that were released all in a row, and they have to have at least 5 total studio albums. 3 studio albums you list. All right, give it a try. Put them in here in my comments or run over the Steven Schnee channel. I'll put the link below to his original video, and you can check it out that way. Okay? Little fun for you tonight. Take care. Bye-bye.